To hear this and many more audiobooks in a podcast feed, please visit the first link in the description below. Thank you for your support. The Governance of China, Volume 3, by Xi Jinping. Audiobook Part 15. The People's Armed Forces. Strengthen the party's leadership and organizations in the military. Main points of the speech at a meeting of the Central Military Commission on Strengthening the Party. August 17th, 2018. Strengthening the party's leadership and organizations in the military in the new era is a prerequisite for implementing the great new project of strengthening the party and for building a strong country with a strong military. The military must implement the thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era and the guiding principles of the 19th CPC National Congress in 2017, the party's philosophy on strengthening the military, and the general requirements for strengthening the party for the new era. The military must implement our party's organizational principle, uphold the party's absolute leadership, ensure the party's full and rigorous self-governance, and focus on improving combat readiness and winning wars. The military must provide a firm political guarantee for achieving our party's goal of building strong armed forces and fulfilling their missions in the new era. After the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, the CPC Central Committee and the Central Military Commission, CMC, set about strengthening the military and its political governance. In particular, the Gutian Conference on Military Political Work was held in 2014 to emphasize the need to promote our party's full and rigorous self-governance and govern the military with strict discipline in every respect. As was decided at the meeting, we must uphold absolute party leadership over the military, enhance political education to improve party conduct in the military, preserve the unity of the military through theoretical education, strengthen party organizations in the military, set up qualification requirements for military officers, improve party conduct and enforce party discipline, fight corruption and punish vice, lead the military in maintaining our original aspiration, abandoning outdated practices and creating new institutions, and ensure party self-governance with stricter, harsher, and more punitive discipline. Through these efforts, the party's leadership and organizations have been strengthened as a firm political guarantee for the historic achievements and changes required in building a strong military. We must review experience and consolidate current outcomes. Strengthening the party's leadership and organizations in the military is key to the long-term stability of the party and the country. To realize the party's goal of building a strong military in the new era, to transform the military into world-class armed forces, and to complete the mission entrusted by the party and the people for the new era, we must make sustained efforts to resolve the problems and weaknesses in party leadership and do more solid work to strengthen the party organizations in the military at all levels. Upholding absolute party leadership over the military is the top priority. We must strengthen the party politically and guide the military in upholding the authority of the Central Committee and its centralized, unified leadership, and in obeying the command of the Central Committee and the CMC. We must continue to educate our officers and soldiers with the thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, and our party's philosophy on strengthening the military for the new era as a foundation for maintaining the military's absolute loyalty to our party. We must implement the leader's responsibility system under the unified collective leadership of party committees, ensuring that all work is done under the leadership of party committees and all major issues are decided by the party committees after discussion. We must improve the institutional framework for party leadership in the military to make party affairs and other political work in the military more procedure-based. Our party's strength comes from its organizations. The military led by strong party organizations must be powerful. In the armed forces, the party's organizational principle serves its political principle. Under this principle, the military must focus on improving its combat readiness and winning wars as its major responsibility. We must strengthen party organizations at all levels in the military, enhance their leadership, organizational capability, and performance, and try to win wars based on our party's political and organizational strength. The military must be adapted to its reformed institutions and functions under a new structure with the CMC exercising overall leadership, the theater commands responsible for military operations, and the services focusing on developing their capabilities. Military party organizations at all levels must identify their functions, improve their structure, institutions and mechanisms, and their way of exercising leadership so as to fully perform their organizational functions. Party committees at the Army level and above are important military party organizations. They must take a clear political stance and be more capable politically. They must be better able to devise strategies, prepare for real combat, reform and innovate, give effective command, and implement decisions and plans. Success in building a powerful military lies in capable military personnel. We need to attach greater importance to the training of officers and professionals, with a focus on training competent officers who are loyal to our party and our people, have moral integrity, and demonstrate a keen sense of responsibility, and on using outstanding professionals who are resolved to strengthen the military and win wars. In selecting and appointing officers, we must emphasize both integrity and ability, with the former taking precedence. We must make good use of the talent needed by a strong military and place the right people in the right posts. In accordance with the strategy of the Central Committee, we must formulate and implement plans for training outstanding young officers and give promising officers special training in the forefront of our military combat and war readiness, assigning them with urgent, difficult, dangerous, or weighty tasks. Human resources are a source of strategic wealth for strengthening and developing the armed forces. We need to build a new system for training military personnel, which consists of military school education, field training, and professional military education with a focus on training commanders for joint operations, new types of combat personnel, high-caliber personnel for technological innovation, and high-level strategic management. We need to improve related supporting policies and strengthen the training of civilian staff. We need to be both strict and caring, and place equal emphasis on providing incentives and imposing constraints. We need to encourage solid work and innovation, help resolve practical difficulties for military personnel, and fully arouse their enthusiasm, initiative, and creativity. We must never falter in our efforts to improve party conduct and combat corruption in the military, with the strictest discipline in all respects and at all times. We must fight hedonism and extravagance and eliminate the practice of favoring form over substance and bureaucratism. We need to adapt our military governance, perform duties, and exercise powers as prescribed by law, and carry out our work in accordance with regulations. We need to enhance discipline education and tighten discipline enforcement, exercising full and rigorous governance over the party and the military. The fight against corruption must go on with firm resolve. We must continue to see that there are no no-go zones, no ground is left unturned, and no tolerance is shown for corruption. We must punish both those who take bribes and those who offer them. We must improve systems to apply checks and oversight over the exercise of power. We must strengthen the confinement of power, leaving no backdoors for abuse of power. We must address both the symptoms and root causes of corruption by enhancing intra-party political education while encouraging officials to employ self-cultivation, self-discipline, and integrity in the fight against unhealthy tendencies and wrongdoing. Improve the socialist military policy framework with Chinese characteristics. Main points of the speech at a meeting of the Central Military Commission on Reform of the Military Policy Framework. November 13th, 2018. The military policy framework helps shape military relations, regulate military practices, and ensure military advancement. Reform of the military policy framework is highly significant for realizing the party's goal of building a strong military in the new era, making the People's Armed Forces a world-class military, and achieving the two centenary goals and the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. We need to fully appreciate the importance and urgency of this reform. To complete the task of the reform, we must develop consensus, build up confidence, take concerted actions, and implement policies to the letter. Throughout the historical period of revolution, economic development, and reform, the CPC has adapted and improved its military policy framework as times changed to meet its mission and perform the duties of the People's Armed Forces. These efforts have enabled the People's Armed Forces to maintain its nature, fulfill its mission, improve its capability to win wars, and secure continuous victories. Socialism, with Chinese characteristics, has entered a new era, as has China's endeavor to upgrade its national defense and military capabilities. So we need to conduct urgent, systematic, and in-depth reform of the military policy framework to adapt to the changing conditions. We should resolve deep-seated problems in the military policy framework, enhance the performance of in-depth reform of national defense and the military, usher in a new stage in strengthening the armed forces, improve military competitiveness, and maintain a position of strength when it comes to fighting war. To carry out the reform, we must follow the thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era and the guiding principles of the 19th CPC National Congress, and observe the party's philosophy on strengthening the military for the new era so as to ensure the party's absolute leadership over the military. The sole and fundamental criterion for judging the success of the reform is combat capability of the military, so we should keep our service personnel fully motivated. Through systematic planning, proactive design, innovative development, and overall reform, we can build a socialist military policy framework with Chinese characteristics. This framework will provide a strong guarantee for realizing the party's goal of building a strong military in the new era and making the Chinese military world-class armed forces. We need to further reform the organizational systems of the party in the military. To strengthen the party in the new era, we must observe the party constitution and improve military systems for reinforcing the party's political foundations, improving the party's theories, organizations, and conduct, and enforcing its discipline. We need to update the policy systems for using our military forces so as to implement our national security strategies. The military must focus on how to fight and win when it is called on. To this end, we should reform the system for strategic military guidance, develop a system of laws and regulations for joint operations, and improve the system of combat readiness. Our policy systems for deploying our military forces must be based on joint operations and ensure both combat readiness in peacetime and prompt response in wartime. And this will enable our military to complete its missions for the new era. We need to restructure the policy systems for strengthening the military. We should design a better institutional framework for the military human resources systems. This includes establishing a career officer system, improving the system for ensuring the well-being of and social security for military personnel, and improving the military honor system. We should reform in a coordinated way our policy systems concerning military training, equipment development, logistics, research, national defense mobilization, and civil military integration. We need to advance reform of the policy systems for military management and create new strategic management systems. We should refine the defense expenditure system and ensure coordinated allocation of military resources. We should adopt military laws and regulations in an integrated way and enhance their codification. Our policy systems for military management must be precise, effective, comprehensive, procedure-based, and mandatory, so as to improve the operations of our military and promote quality development of our armed forces. The military must implement, as a major political responsibility, the decisions and plans of the CPC Central Committee and the Central Military Commission on Reform of the Military Policy Framework. To fulfill the task, we must have a stronger sense of responsibility, ensure implementation, and promote reform in a more forceful and well-planned way. A consensus must be reached within the military on the importance of the reform. We should make officers and soldiers see that the reform is of political and strategic importance and support and embrace the reform. Military officers at all levels, especially high-ranking officers, must maintain their political commitment, think in terms of the general picture, follow the core leadership of the CPC Central Committee, and act in accordance with its requirements. Our high-ranking officers must set a good example in taking a clear political stance, acting in the overall interests, observing discipline, facilitating reform, and fulfilling duties. We should see that all military organizations fulfill their respective responsibilities. A policy framework must be put in place and implemented in accordance with their functions and assignments. We should take coordinated steps for implementation to ensure that reform advances in the direction we have set. We should ensure the overall planning and coordination of this reform. We must speed up the introduction of some policies, prioritizing those urgently needed in carrying out reform and enhancing war preparedness and expected by military personnel. Promoting reform of the military policy framework is a task for both the military and the civil sectors. All central party and government departments and local party committees and governments should concern themselves with and support the reform. They should play their part and help strengthen joint civil-military endeavors to carry out this reform. Be combat ready under the new conditions. Main points of the speech at a meeting of the Central Military Commission on Military Work. January 4th, 2019. The military must follow the thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era and implement the guiding principles of the 19th CPC National Congress in 2017 and the second and third plenary sessions of the 19th CPC Central Committee in 2018. The military must act on the party's philosophy on strengthening the military for the new era, implement a strategy for new conditions, and get ready to meet any new challenge at this starting point. Since the 18th CPC National Congress in 2012, in the face of a challenging domestic and international environment and shouldering arduous military tasks, the CPC Central Committee and the Central Military Commission have sized up new developments, made overall plans, and led the military in tackling tough issues with resolve. Thanks to these efforts, the performance of our military has been enhanced. New ground has been made, and landmark pioneering and historic advances have been achieved. With determination, adaptive strategies, and forceful actions, the military has safeguarded our sovereignty, security, and development interests, and withstood severe and multiple tests. A scale of change unseen in a century is unfolding in the world today. China is still in an important period of strategic opportunity for development, but it also faces increasing risks and challenges, both foreseeable and unexpected. In view of this, all our military personnel must gain a full understanding of China's underlying security and development trends, be ever ready to guard against potential dangers, and take solid steps to ensure that we are ready to meet any challenge and fulfill our missions entrusted by the party and the people. We should implement the military strategy and principles for the new era and fulfill the command responsibilities to meet new challenges. We must be fully aware that the military is a fighting force and that its combat capability is what matters. We must devote all our efforts, strengths, and resources to this endeavor. We should enhance war and combat capabilities to ensure rapid and effective response in case of war. We should build a joint operations command system to improve our capacity in this regard. We should develop new combat forces and create new combat capabilities. We should enhance military training under combat conditions to enhance war preparedness. We should do more to resolve problems progressively and deliver real outcomes. All central party and government departments and local party committees and governments must support the development of national defense and the military, and work together to build our heroic people's armed forces into a more powerful military with stronger combat capability. End of audiobook, part 15.